These are found in Singapore. And these are also found in Singapore. But no, I am not talking about our zoo or bird park, because today we are diving into the wild side of Singapore, where I'm going to give you the ultimate guide to birding in Singapore in 2025. But before we begin, let me set the context. This is my personal experience of birding, basically observing birds in Singapore. Every bird you're about to see was spotted in the wild, some native to our island and others, well, not quite, but more on that later. And here's the note, every single photo and video you'll see was taken ethically, with no baiting or disturbing the birds. For those new to my channel, my name is Terrence and I've been a wildlife photographer in Singapore for the past 10 years. I am currently a Nikon ambassador and have also worked with many other brands and organizations to create content around wildlife and wildlife photography. While this video is all about birding, I should mention that I'm coming at this from a photographer's perspective. There are plenty of amazing birds I've seen that did not make it into this video simply because I did not get a good shot of them. With that out of the way, let's dive in. Did you know that Singapore is home to over 450 recorded species of birds? That's more than the United Kingdom, a country nearly 300 times our size. This incredible diversity makes Singapore a birding paradise filled with fascinating and unique species, some of which you might not expect. But before we dive into that, let's take a closer look at the habitats where these birds thrive. Singapore's compact size doesn't just make it convenient for commuting, it also offers bird enthusiasts a rare advantage. You can experience multiple distinct ecosystems in a single day. The island is home to three main bird habitats: urban, forest, and mangrove ecosystems. In Singapore, it is entirely possible to spend your morning amidst lush greenery in the tropical rainforest, then head to the coastal mangroves by midday, and finish your day in an urban park teeming with birds that have adapted to city life. This seamless access to different habitats is a unique feature that sets Singapore apart as a birding destination, offering unparalleled opportunities to observe a wide variety of bird species without the need for long journeys. Whether you're exploring the dense forests of Bukit Timah, wandering through the serene Sungai Buloh Wetland Reserve, or spotting birds in the heart of the city at places like Gardens by the Bay, Singapore's compact yet diverse landscape makes it a birder's dream. Let's take a closer look at what makes each of these habitats so special and the types of birds you can expect to encounter in each one. Let's first dive into urban habitats, the spaces where most of us live, work, and play. Singapore is often called a concrete jungle, and it's easy to see why. We are a tiny island measuring just 42 kilometers by 27 kilometers, with a bustling population of 6 million people. With so little land, we've built upwards, filling the skyline with towering skyscrapers and high-rise apartments. It's an architectural marvel, no doubt. But here's the twist. Singapore's urban spaces aren't just about concrete and glass. People are often amazed how much greenery we have managed to pack into this city. We've got trees and plants just about everywhere, lining roads, sprawling across rooftops, growing inside buildings, and even climbing up their sides. Plus, parks and green spaces dot the island like little emerald treasures. Fun fact, almost anywhere in Singapore, you're just a 10-minute walk from a park. And guess what? All that greenery means we've got wildlife and birds living right in the heart of the city. So, what's attracting these birds to our urban jungle? Let's break it down. First up, the greenery. With over 750,000 trees planted all across the island, it's no wonder our feathered friends feel right at home. Whether it's tree-lined streets, lush parks, or gardens on rooftops, Singapore's greenery offers food, shelter, and a comfy space for birds to hang out. Second, food sources. Enter hawker centers, our iconic open-air food courts where locals and visitors alike feast on delicious dishes. And guess who else is snacking? Birds like pigeons, miners, crows, and sparrows. They're pros at swooping in to grab the crumbs and leftovers we humans leave behind. Third, water bodies. Singapore's waterways were once polluted, but thanks to a massive cleanup effort, we now have sparkling clean rivers, reservoirs, and ponds. You've probably heard of our famous otters. They are a big hit. And where there's clean water, there are waterfowl, ducks, herons, kingfishers, you name it. And with all the fish swimming around, the birds are more than happy to tag along. Lastly, high-rise buildings. This might surprise you, but many birds love roosting or finding shelter in our skyscrapers. If you're lucky enough to live in a high-rise apartment, you might just get a feathery visitor stopping by for a rest, or maybe even to sing you a little tune. Now, let's venture into the forest, Singapore's very own slice of tropical wilderness. Singapore is located in the tropics, so naturally we have tropical forest. While it is true that we are a highly urbanized nation, we still have pockets of lush, green forests scattered all across the island. These forests are small compared to what you might find in larger countries, but they are incredibly biodiverse and rich in wildlife. If you take a look at Singapore on Google Maps, you will notice quite a few large green areas. Interestingly, many of these are actually off limits to the public as they are reserved for military training. However, the forests you can explore are primarily concentrated in the central region, in areas like the Central Catchment Nature Reserve, which form the green lungs of our island. These reserves are home to some of the last remnants of primary and secondary tropical rainforest in Singapore. For anyone familiar with tropical forest, you will know that they are dense, humid, and often buzzing with life. But spotting wildlife here isn't exactly easy. The dense foliage provides excellent cover for animals, making it tough to see them, especially if you're new to forest exploration. But here's the thing, even if you can't see the wildlife, you will almost certainly hear it. The moment you step into the forest, you are greeted by a symphony of bird calls, insect chatter, and rustling leaves. It's like stepping into nature's very own orchestra. So, what kinds of birds can you find in Singapore's forests? This is where some of our most elusive and unique bird species make their home. With patience and practice, you might spot the brightly colored red-crowned barbet perched high up in the canopy, or the elegant greater racket-tailed drongo, known for its long, graceful tail feathers. One fascinating fact about forest birding is that it challenges you to slow down and truly engage with your surroundings. The birds here don't just reveal themselves immediately. It takes time to notice their subtle movements and calls. For example, you might hear the melodious song of the straw-headed bulbul, which is considered critically endangered globally but finds a stronghold here in Singapore's forests. Or if you're lucky, you might catch a glimpse of the brown bubuk, a secretive species that's difficult to find. So while it might take some effort to uncover the treasures of Singapore's forests, the rewards are well worth it. The lush greenery, the sounds of nature, and the incredible bird life all combine to make the forest an unforgettable experience. For any birding enthusiast or nature lover, this is where you'll find some of the most stunning and rare bird species Singapore has to offer. Alright, we've made it to our final stop, the mangroves. These incredible coastal ecosystems are like nature's multitaskers. They protect our shores from erosion, filter water, and provide a safe haven for tons of wildlife. Mangroves are a bird watcher's dream. You'll spot egrets, herons, storks, and those brilliantly colorful kingfishers flitting around. The best part, unlike dense forests, mangroves are way more open, so it's like nature rolling out the red carpet for you to see these birds in action. If you're new to birding, the mangroves are the perfect place to start. Easy spotting, great vibes, and lots to discover. Here's something you might not know. Not all the birds you'll spot in Singapore are locals. Yep, not all of them actually belong here, but that's part of what makes birding here so fascinating. Every year from September to March, something absolutely magical happens. Birds from far-off places like Russia, China, and the Himalayan regions pack their bags and head south to escape the freezing winters. And lucky for us, Singapore is one of their favorite pit stops. This is prime time for birders because you'll never know who might show up. It's like a mystery guest list where a rare bird could make a surprise appearance and steal the show. You've got massive flocks of birds like redshanks and whimbrels arriving, and then there are the stars of the season, the one that gets everyone talking, like the tiny yet stunning oriental dwarf kingfisher or the vibrant blue-winged pitta. These beauties are always a crowd pleaser. Speaking of crowds, every now and then a bird so rare appears that it causes a frenzy among birders. Remember when vultures showed up a few years ago? People came from all over just to catch a glimpse. It's moments like these that make birding in Singapore so thrilling. And hey, if you're curious about bird migration as I am, stick around until the end of this video. I've got a video all about the incredible journeys that these birds take. Now, let's talk about another group of birds you might spot in Singapore. Captive birds that found their way into the wild, either by accident or because someone decided to set them free. While I definitely don't condone the deliberate release of captive birds, it's not great for them or the ecosystem, I've got to admit, running into these birds in the wild can be pretty fascinating. Take the grey-crowned crane, for example. This big, beautiful bird is native to Africa, so there's no way it flew all the way here on its own. Then there are the pin-tailed whydas, which always create a buzz during mating season when the males strut their stuff with their long, elegant tails to impress the ladies. And let's not forget the white-rumped shama, a bird so striking and melodious that it's managed to establish a sizable population here in Singapore. These unexpected encounters add a little extra spice to birding in Singapore. Birding is an incredible way to connect with nature, but it comes with responsibilities. Ethical birding means putting the well-being of the birds and their natural habitats first, ensuring that our actions don't disturb or harm them. In Singapore, where we are lucky to share our urban spaces with an amazing variety of bird life, it's especially important to respect these creatures and their environments. Sadly, there have been instances where unethical birding practices have caused harm, and it's worth understanding these issues to avoid repeating them. One key principle of ethical birding is to never disturb a bird's nest. Unfortunately, there have been cases in Singapore where birders or photographers have overstepped boundaries for the perfect shot. For example, in 2024, a nest of Sundar owls was found in an urban area, but a few over-enthusiastic photographers and passers-by got too close, making too much noise. This kind of behavior stresses the birds and may cause them to abandon their nest, which is heartbreaking, especially for endangered species. Another common issue is the use of playback, playing recorded bird calls to lure birds out into the open. While it might seem harmless, excessive playback disrupts the natural behavior of birds, especially during breeding season, when it can cause unnecessary stress and even territory conflicts. In Singapore's popular birding spots like Sungai Buloh and Pasir Ris Park, there have been reports of this practice being misused, leading to complaints from conservationists and responsible birders. Feeding wildlife is another practice that's discouraged but still happens. While it might seem like a kind gesture, feeding birds can alter their natural diet, lead to dependency on humans, and attract pests. In 2016, a photographer was fined for baiting endangered eagles with air-injected live fish to get hunting photos. Ethical birding means appreciating birds as they are in their natural habitat, without interfering with their diet or behavior. So this begs the question you are probably wondering, where and how can I find these birds? First, let me provide my recommendation for a list of places you can go to. Note that this is based on my personal experience, and of course, you're free to explore any other locations to go to or seek other people for advice. For urban environments, I recommend Bishan Park and Gardens by the Bay. For forest environments, I'd recommend Lower Pierce Reservoir, Thomson Nature Park, Windsor Nature Park, Dairy Farm Nature Park, and Hindhede Nature Reserve. For mangrove environments, I recommend Sungai Buloh Wetland Reserve, Pasir Ris Park, and Labrador Nature Park. If you're new to birding in Singapore, don't worry, I've got some simple tips to help you get started and maximize your chances of spotting our feathered friends. First up, consider joining local Facebook groups or online communities dedicated to birding in Singapore. These groups often share live updates on recent sightings and where to find certain species. It's like having a real-time birding guide. Plus, you'll get to learn more from experienced birders and maybe even join a few outings. Second, avoid crowded spots. While places like MacRitchie Reservoir and Bukit Timah Hill are beautiful, there are a large number of visitors can make it harder to spot birds. Instead, explore quieter areas like Kranji Marshes or Sungai Buloh, where the chances of peaceful birding are much higher. Third, don't forget your binoculars. These are an absolute must-have for birding. They let you observe birds from a distance without disturbing them, giving you a closer look at their stunning details. Fourth, use more than just your eyes. Listen for the birds. Bird calls are a great way to find and identify species. If you are targeting a specific bird, check out online databases or apps to familiarize yourself with their calls beforehand. You'll be surprised how much easier it is to locate them when you know what to listen for. And finally, timing is everything. Birds are most active right after sunrise and just before sunset, so those are your golden hours for birding. Plan your outings during those times for the best chance to see them in action. That's all I have now for birding in Singapore. If you do have questions, feel free to ask in the comment section down below or drop me a message on Instagram. Subscribe to see more videos like this or buy me a coffee to help support my channel, link in the description down below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to also check out my other video here about bird migration in Singapore. Or if you want an extremely comprehensive guide about wildlife photography in Singapore, click this other video here.